everybody in Chestnut Branch. Yes. Very pissed me off, folks.
Welcome to Kent County Levy Court business meeting and committee meeting tonight. It's Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. We're in Levy Court Chambers, room 203 at 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware. Everybody welcome. And before we get started with the business meeting, I'll have the county administrator read the rules for the folks that are with us virtually or on the phone. County administrator, turn it over to you.
Lisa, don't forget to mute your phone because they hear everything.
Sounds like someone's talking. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. This meeting is being offered via WebEx to the public who may wish to join the meeting virtually. So as we proceed with this meeting, we're going to ask everyone who is, when they do speak, particularly those that are joining us via WebEx or on a telephone line, to state their name for the record. Also, during the public hearing time, those folks that are joining via WebEx will be sworn in by the county attorney, who I believe is also joining us remotely tonight. For those that are joining remotely, if you're on a phone, you can press *3 on your device throughout the meeting to raise your hand at our console, and we can recognize you at the appropriate time to enter the meeting, and also *6 to mute or unmute your mobile phone device. If you're on a computer, there are graphic interfaces that show the raised hand that you can select to also signal us that you're ready to enter the meeting for a comment. There's also the mute and unmute button that we ask you keep your devices on mute throughout the meeting except for when you are speaking. Mr. President, we are proceeding under the Levy Court business meeting rules of order, as well as the Mason's rules of order for this proceeding. Turn the floor back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we'll bring the business meeting to order, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Howell to lead us in the invocation, Commissioner Buxton lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Sweeney lead us in a moment of silence for our troops and first responders. I ask you all to rise.
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight asking your blessings and guidance in all of our proceedings, that they'll be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty, protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients, losing their lives caring for others. As of today, more than 610,460 Americans nationwide, 1,698 here in Delaware, and 349 in Kent County have lost their lives to COVID. Please remember these individuals and their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel James C. Willis from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Police Officer Kevin Apple from Pea Ridge Police Department, Arizona. Deputy Sheriff Anthony Redondo, Imperial County Sheriff's Office in California. Detective Greg Ferenczi from the Terre Haute Police Department, Indiana. Police Officer William Earl Collins, Jr. from the Doyline Police Department, Louisiana. Sergeant Joshua Blake Bartlett from Lubbock County Sheriff's Office in Texas. Reserve Deputy Sheriff Tom Larry Hubler from the Childress County Sheriff's Office in Texas. Detective Jeremy Brown from the Clark County Sheriff's Office to Washington. K-9 Max from the St. Joseph Police Department in Missouri. K-9 Jazz, Savannah Police Department in Georgia. K-9 Rex from the Michigan State Police in Michigan. Firefighter Dennis B. Chenard from the Kingston Volunteer Fire Company in New Jersey. Firefighter Sean DeMonk from the Penn-Wynn Overbrook Hills Fire Company in Pennsylvania. Firefighter Paramedic Joseph Del Targo from the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue in Florida. Assistant Fire Chief William Schaffer from the Hillsborough Fire Company in New Jersey. Firefighter Janet Tracy from the Caballo Volunteer Fire Department in New Mexico. Firefighter Thomas Royds from Lower Merion Township Fire Department in Pennsylvania. Pilot Matthew Miller, Bureau of Land Management in Arizona. Air Tactical Group Supervisor Jeff Pichura from the Bureau of Land Management in Arizona. These ladies and men gave their lives in the line of duty, protecting us, fighting for our freedoms, protecting us from fires, from criminals. Please keep them and their families in your thoughts and prayers tonight as their families deal with their losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. At this time, can we have a roll call, please, to determine quorum?
Mr. Angel,
Present.
Mr. Buxton,
Present.
Mr. Hall,
Present.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Mrs. Maston,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
Mr. Pepper.
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 present.
Thank you. We do have quorum. Need a motion on the adoption of tonight's agenda.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda has been adopted. Need a motion for consent agenda 21-07.
Move to approve, Mr. President.
Second, Mr. President.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Angel. Can we have a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. The consent agenda for this evening has been approved. We have 3 presentations this evening. One is Resolution 3891, Retirement of Brian A. Lewis. Are we going to allow him to retire?
Whereas the retirement of Brian A. Lewis, an employee of Kent County, State of Delaware, from his duties as Maintenance Worker 3, Department of Administration, Facilities Management Division, presents a suitable opportunity for expressing the esteem in which we hold Brian A. Lewis as a good and faithful public servant. Therefore, be it resolved that the County of Kent express its warmest appreciation and thanks to Brian A. Lewis for the able and loyal manner in which he performed his public duties. Be it further resolved that this resolution be his evidence of a right to the pension provided by the Kent County Employees Retirement Program, and that this resolution be and hereby is incorporated into the official minutes of the July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Kent County Levy Court.
Thank you. This is a resolution, so we need a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 3891.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. We'll need a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
I have a hard time doing this, Brian.
I hear you.
Because you're sharing the retirement tonight with Mr. Neal, I think you could pack the house pretty good. So
That's right. Absolutely.
anyway, yes, I do approve.
Thank you.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, happy to. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Brian, I saw you thanking them for approving the resolution. Seriously?
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
My vote is yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Resolution 3891, Brian A. Lewis retirement has been approved. And I think it'd only be fitting, this is the first time that all of us can go out front and greet Brian and wish him a farewell. So meet me around front.
Since I think it's Pep usually, President usually starts things off, I think. Usually hang out with it.
Reason I say this is the first time, it's the first time in a long time that we've all been able to come out front. First, we were relegated to behind the dais with our mask on, and then we were able to do away with our mask, but we hadn't been coming out front to wish farewell or hello or anything like that in the recent past. So this is really a treat, but I hate for it to be for Brian leaving. But it is fitting for us to come out here and wish you farewell, wish you the best, and get all your honeydews done, and do all those things you've been promising yourself all your life, get them done. And we look forward for a report. So congratulations, best of luck, and keep him busy, okay?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Commissioner Angel.
Yes, I'm having a hard time with this. I just hope you broke your new boss in well so he knows how to replace you, because it's going to be hard. We know that. Is that right, sir? So, but if we need your help, you will come back and give us a hand, correct? I know that. That's why I approved it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Brian, on your retirement, and wishing you the best as you write the next chapter of your life.
Congratulations. As somebody that just went through this, I don't know, less than a month ago, I can tell you this. So far, so good. It's a good gig. So congratulations. And I don't know if maybe Dick McDonald might be able to come down and say a word or two down the road, but there you go. Not yet, but come on down. Come on down. But I just jumped the gun.
Congratulations. Thanks very much for your service to the county. Enjoy your retirement.
I agree. We wish you the best in every respect, and retirement is fun.
Brian, stay busy. That's all I can say. Stay busy. Enjoy your retirement. I wish I were you.
Hey, Brian, what's there to say? You've been an indispensable employee here for many years, and you will be missed in a big way by a lot of people, not only as a really good worker, someone who was always ready to do whatever, but as a really good person to be around. So I know a lot of the employees feel that way. Everyone does. And so you'll be missed. And I can just recall several stories that I could share, but I'm not going to hear where you stepped up. But the one that does bear sharing is the time that we had to deal with dog control. And one evening, at the threat of having 17 dogs dropped here at the county building, Brian and I went and had 17 dogs signed over to our custody and drove them to Sussex County. And that was above and beyond the call of your duty. And I really appreciate that level of stepping up. And Joyce, congratulations. You're getting your Brian back. And I hope you share many happy years together in retirement. So congratulations. And Mr. McDonald is here. Mr. Vasquez is here, your former boss, your current boss. Dick, take it away.
Well, I hired quite a few number of people while I worked here. Brian's the only one that I did one interview and hired Brian. Sorry, Alan. But I knew he's the man to get from the get-go, and he's been a joy, and he's a friend. Thanks.
Well, 16 years ago, the commissioners of Kent County Levy Court welcomed Brian Lewis into the family. I'm so grateful for that. Attributes, when I look at Brian, I think dedicated, loyal, committed. Brian, I wish you the greatest retirement, longevity, and health. Thank you.
Brian, if you and your lovely wife come forward, I'd like to present you with your resolution that I guess makes it official. So, turn right around. We can get a picture to hold on to that.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
He's not here. He's not here? No, just reading it. It's our employee of the month. It's our employee of the month here. No, I don't believe so. Okay. And, well, you know, Brian, you're the most important one. You want to say a few words? Don't tell any secrets now, but.
That's right, I know. I don't know, I really don't know what to say. I mean, the commissioner said it all, and that's a ditto right back to them as well. Thank them for all their service and what they've done for Kent County. Thank our county, our administrator, Michael Pettymosh. Appreciate him for all of his guidance and so forth in these troubled times. I think, again, Dick McDonald, couldn't have done it without him. It's been a long journey, 16 years. There's many more that's traveled that journey a lot further. But the people I've met, the people I've encountered, is just wow. And being a fellow police officer, I thank you so much for your service. President Pepper was a retired state trooper, so I appreciate that as well. Yep. Okay, and I thank my wife.
Take care. If you need anything, come back.
Yep, I will do.
Nobody else? That's it? Okay. Well, I can go back. Okay, we have two more presentations this evening. One is Resolution 3892, which is retirement of Ralph E. Neal Jr. Now, Ralph is not here. However, we're going to read the resolution into the record and vote on it. And so, Lori, can we have that read into the record, please? Resolution 3892.
Whereas the retirement of Ralph E. Neal Jr., an employee of Kent County, State of Delaware, from his duties as Paramedic 2, Department of Public Safety, Emergency Medical Services Division, presents a suitable opportunity for expressing the esteem in which we hold Ralph E. Neal Jr. as a good and faithful public servant. Therefore, be it resolved that the County of Kent express its warmest appreciation and thanks to Ralph E. Neal Jr. for the able and loyal manner in which he performed his public duties. Be it further resolved that this resolution be his evidence of a right to the pension provided by the Kent County Employees Retirement Program, and that this resolution be and hereby is incorporated into the official minutes of the July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Kent County Levy Court.
Thank you. This is a resolution, so we will need a vote, need a motion on Resolution 3892.
Move to approve Resolution 3892, Mr. President.
Second?
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing Ralph to retire, fellow commissioners. Ralph has been a paramedic for Kent County for quite some time. During that time, he's been a great leader, a great teacher, and a valued employee. And you know how much we value our paramedics, and we hate to lose one. We hate for that knowledge to walk out the door. But Ralph has decided it's his time, so we wish him well. He couldn't be here this evening, but we still wish him well, and best of luck. And fellow employees, if you should see Ralph, wish him well. Thank you. And next item, Employee of the Month for August.
Kent County department heads have selected James M. Girardi from the Department of Public Works as the August 2021 Employee of the Month. Jim serves as maintenance supervisor in the Division of Wastewater Facilities and has worked for Kent County since July 2006. His primary duty is to supervise 13 maintenance mechanics in the completion of various wastewater collection system maintenance tasks, including installation and repair of operating pumps, valves, electrical controls, piping, and any other integral components in wastewater operations. Jim was previously recognized as the Employee of the Month in June 2010 when he was a Maintenance Mechanic 3. According to supervisors, Jim was instrumental in coordinating with subcontractors, DelDOT, and employees during a recent restoration project involving 5 deteriorating manholes located within paved highway rights-of-way across the county. He also recently directed maintenance staff work for the North Aeration Basin project at the Regional Resource Recovery Facility, including reinstallation of the aeration lines and diffusers. According to Public Works Director Diana Galt, Jim has an incredible work ethic and steps up each time a major project needs manpower or an emergency situation develops, such as a force main break. His leadership and communication skills have proven vital for timely completion of these and many other projects. He truly is an asset to Kent County. Congratulations, Jim, on a job well done. And he resides in Commissioner Howell's and Pepper's districts. And the tribute reads, Kent County Levy Court, August 2021 Employee of the Month, James M. Girardi. On this, the 27th day of July 2021, the Levy Court of Kent County, State of Delaware, does hereby recognize James M. Girardi, Maintenance Supervisor, Department of Public Works, Wastewater Facilities Division, for his exceptional initiative, dedication, and conscientiousness in the delivery of services to the citizenry of the county.
Thank you. I don't believe Jim's here this evening.
Mr. Girardi is on vacation this week, much needed vacation, and was planned well in advance of this award. So what we would like to do is have him come to our August meeting on the 10th and be recognized, present the tribute to him at that point.
That'd be fantastic. We can do that.
Thank you.
Do we have any introductions tonight?
Yes, Mr. President, we have 3 new employees introduced tonight, and I'm going to introduce the first 2 on behalf of Finance Director Susan Durham, who couldn't be here tonight, and I'll be followed by the Administrative Officer for Emergency Communications, who will be introducing the new dispatcher on behalf of Chief Colin Faulkner. So if I could have Bill and Shane meet me down here at the podium, I'll introduce them. William McNamara Jr. was hired on June the 28th, 2021 as an account specialist 1 in the accounting section of the Department of Finance. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting from Delaware State University and most recently worked for Bankers Life and Casualty Company as a branch office administrator. Prior to that, he worked for more than 30 years at Aetna in computer support. Bill resides in Commissioner Maston's and President Pepper's districts. Also here tonight is Shane Matthews. He was hired on July the 6th of this year as an Assessor 1 in the Assessment Office. He has an associate's degree in environmental science from Cecil College and has worked for several construction companies, including most recently as a carpenter for Select Contracting in Elkton, Maryland. Shane resides in Commissioner Buxton's and Pepper's district. Bill and Shane, would you like to say a couple words?
Just like to thank the Levy Court and Kent County the opportunity to work in the finance department.
I also would like to thank Levy Court and Kent County for an opportunity at a new career path. So up until this point, I'd only really done construction work, carpentry work, and I'm really glad that I have those skills, and I can carry those on for the rest of my life and use them. But this new role as an assessor is really interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to serving the public and working for Levy Court. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. Commissioner Buxton, Commissioner Maston, would you like to say anything, being living in your district?
Speaking on behalf of my district, I appreciate you, and I do appreciate your wealth of experience, and I'm not quite sure what the role of reassessment will be in regards to our own staff, but if it involves our own staff, good luck. It's going to be a fun one. Anyway, appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you, and I look forward to seeing you both again at a future meeting. Welcome aboard.
Danny McLaughlin will introduce the 3rd employee. Danny.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing Dylan Miller. He was hired to our department June 28th of 2021 as Dispatcher 1 in the Emergency Communications Division. He's EMD, EFD, and EPD certified, and most recently worked for Sussex County as a communications specialist. He's also worked as an ambulance driver since 2020 for both Marydale and Chelswood Fire Companies, and he resides in Commissioner Howes and Pepper's district.
Just want to thank Kent County Levy Court for this opportunity. Look for many long years to come with the county. Thank you.
Dylan, welcome aboard. A lot of people don't realize how intense being a dispatcher is. Yep. Even though you're sitting most of the time, you got to be on your toes. So best of luck to you, and please be a long-time employee. Mr. Howe?
I agree that it could be a high-stress job, and not just anybody could do it. So we're glad to have you here and hope you stay forever.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, we're through the formalities of Levy Court. At this time, we'll proceed with the public hearings. We have 2 this evening. The first one is Resolution 3893. Mr. Buxton, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know Ms. Kiefer's here to explain the process, and we can move forward. It's a good time for Knots Landing, I believe.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Before the hearings, just a word about how the hearings tonight will be conducted. This public hearing is being conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the Levy Court. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements are to be made from the podium at the front of the room. Instructions will also be given to be able to give testimony via WebEx. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. For each application before the Levy Court, the President will introduce the application. The Levy Court will then receive testimony from all of those in favor. Testimony will then be received from those who may be opposed. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the hearing on the application will be closed, and the Levy Court will take what action it deems appropriate. Levy Court's decision will be based upon public hearing testimony given at this meeting and a recommendation submitted to the Levy Court by the Regional Planning Commission. I would ask that that recommendation be included by reference in the permanent record of the meeting established by the Clerk of the Peace. The public notice of this hearing was published in the July 9th, 2021 edition of the Delaware State News. The first hearing before the Levy Court tonight, Resolution 3893, is to add the Knott's Landing subdivision to the Stormwater Maintenance District. A majority of the lot owners have signed the petition in the affirmative to join the district. The maintenance plan has been finalized, and if added, a $28 per parcel annual fee will be added to the tax bill commencing this August. It meets all of the criteria for joining the Stormwater Maintenance District, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Pepper, Ms. Kiefer. A couple things. I know that the Conservation District is not here tonight. Is that correct?
I have not seen them.
Sure. So I wanted to have you articulate a few things in regards to the Conservation District is here. Listen, it's all good. You may or may not be needed. I'm confident that Sarah probably can answer these, but I just want to articulate for the record, because it is a little unusual, right? We do have a majority, however, a slim majority. Mm-hmm. That isn't in recognition that there was a significant amount of naysayers. It just means that it articulated those in favor.
Correct.
Okay, so that's a good thing. The fee, the current fee per lot per year, is it still under $30?
It's $28.
$28.
$28.
Correct. Okay. And it meets all the terms and conditions, and I spoke to an HOA representative who articulated their support. So to my understanding, the HOA is supportive of this application.
To my knowledge, often it's the HOA who spearheads these.
And your feeling is the same. Okay. Thank you. Good, Mr. President, if you want to open up the hearing or what have you.
We're about to open up the hearing on this, and I'd like to reiterate that when you come to the microphone, first thing you need to do is give your name clearly, it's being recorded, and your address. And then you have to be sworn or affirmed. And our attorney is with us virtually, and he will swear you in. So if anyone is here in favor of Resolution 3893, I ask you to come forward at this time. Welcome, sir. If you'll give us your name and your address.
My name's Charles Pensel, P-E-N-S-E-L. I'm at 237 South Landing Drive, Milford, and of course, Knott's Landing. And I am right at the present time president of the Homeowners Association. So we worked on this thing quite hard.
Sir, excuse me.
Sir, we need to have you sworn or affirmed. Listen to the attorney. He's online.
Sir, good evening. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Proceed. Thank you.
I would like to start off with that group is a great group of people to work with. We had a lot of conversations, a lot of direction, and a lot of help to get this thing passed. Our board members of our homeowners worked hard on it to get it passed, and it's a big liability off our back.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in favor? Anyone else here in favor of this resolution, please come forward. Anyone online in favor of this?
If we have any folks joining via the WebEx, if you're on using a phone line, press *3 on your device to raise your hand, or if you're on your computer, activate the raise hand symbol and we'll bring you into the room.
We have no participants wishing to speak in favor at this time.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the floor to anyone opposed. Anyone opposed to Resolution 3893, please come forward. Anyone opposed, please come forward. Seeing no one. Anyone online opposed?
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this proposition before Levy Court on a phone, *3 will raise your hand, and also your computer device. If you activate the raise hand symbol, we'll bring you in for comment.
Again, no participants on the WebEx wishing to speak in opposition at this time.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we'll close the public hearing on Resolution 3893, and I turn it over to Commissioner Buxton.
Thank you, Mr. President. As is typical, I like to give credit to Mr. Ben Kuntz, who's looking down right now and pleased with another member joining the district. My motion is to approve it, and the finding that the proposed stormwater maintenance district expansion is adequate and appropriate, that all the property owners within the district are benefited directly or indirectly thereby, and that it is in the public interest to extend the stormwater maintenance district in the manner proposed. I move to approve Resolution 3893, creating the Knott's Landing Stormwater Maintenance District.
Second motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Sweeney to approve Resolution 3893. Give me a roll call, please, on that motion.
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Buxton.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, per my motion.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated, and it's a real bargain, and it'll take a lot of stress off homeowners living there. So my answer is yes.
Yes, Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Resolution 3893 has been approved. Okay. We'll move on to our next public hearing. It's a petition to amend the comprehensive plan map and zoning map. And as before, we'll be coming to the podium. Everyone will have the opportunity to speak, but I realize a lot of people are shy and they don't like to come up and speak in front of the crowd. So be assured that at the end of the public testimony, I'll ask for those in favor to raise their hands and those opposed to raise their hands in the audience. So, and I also ask that if one or two people get up and say the exact same thing that you were going to say, you may want to hold off to raise your hand at the end. And so we can be as efficient as possible with this public hearing. And we'll ask you to try to limit your comments and be as concise as possible. I want you all to be aware that we've had in our possession the comments from the Regional Planning Commission and the numerous letters for and against. So we've all had that in our packet, and we've all read over that. And right at this time, I'll turn it over to Sarah Kiefer.
Thank you, Mr. Pepper. Before you tonight is Ordinance LC 2110. This is a proposed amendment to the zoning map and the comprehensive plan. Zoning is currently AC, agricultural conservation, and the proposal is to rezone to BN, neighborhood business. The site is about 9.5 acres on the north side of Irish Hill Road at Peachtree Run, inside the growth zone. The Planning Commission took testimony on this application at their July 1st hearing, and at their July 8th business meeting voted unanimously to recommend approval, citing its compliance with the comprehensive plan, and that the proposed zoning, the development in accordance with the proposed zoning would complement the area, and the fact that adequate infrastructure to serve the site is either existing or planned. So again, this comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Sweeney, you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time, but she's always available when we need to bring her back up.
Commissioner Buxton.
Ms. Kiefer, you mentioned the comprehensive plan. Can you educate me, maybe some of the audience, on the existence of the plan? And the original one was 2008, was the one I'm most familiar with, the one that I came on board with, I guess. Mm-hmm. What do you mean it's referenced in the plan?
The 2018 comprehensive plan, the most recently adopted, includes a land use strategies map that identifies areas within the county, some for neighborhood commercial development, some are for highway commercial development, some for industrial. This is one area that future land use strategies map identifies for neighborhood commercial.
Any other commissioner questions? Seeing none, thank you. And at this time, we'll open the public hearing. And again, please make all comments from the microphone. And please limit your presentation as short as you can. And at this time, we'll turn it over to the applicants.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Levy Court.
As before, we need your name and address, and unless you're an attorney, we need you to be sworn or affirmed.
You must have read my notes, because literally the next thing I was going to say is John Tracy from Young, Conaway, Stargett, and Taylor here on behalf of the applicant. It's been a while since I've been before you, but many of you probably looked at me and said, wait a minute, there's not a cell tower as part of this application, so what is he doing here? But it is good to be back. It has been a while. With me to my right is Mike Ryman from Becker Morgan Group. He's the project engineer. To his right is John Forrest. He is the property owner. He's not to borrow the pun, a Johnny-come-lately here. He's actually owned this property for a number of years, 5 or 6 years, purchased after the 2008 comp plan was adopted, which first targeted this property as the potential for some neighborhood commercial development. As Ms. Kiefer indicated, this matter was considered by the RPC at its business meeting, its public hearing and its business meeting, and it unanimously supported this request. The department had also provided a positive endorsement or commentary on the project as well prior to the RPC meeting. We do have a brief slideshow that I would like to walk through. Some of the slides may be familiar to Commissioner Buxton and Commissioner Sweeney because we had a community meeting in this building where some of these slides will be familiar. But of course, right now there's a garage door in Kansas that's going up when I hit that. So, but as was indicated in the initial presentation or by the department, this is a petition to rezone approximately 9.5 acres from its current zoning of AC to a new zoning of BN. It lies northwest of the intersection of Irish Hill Road and Peachtree Run Road. I will note that, as I kind of alluded to, that this rezoning request, unlike many you may see, is not an original thought, something that my wife has accused me of not having for the entirety of our 30 years of marriage. This is something that is actually following the guidance of the Comprehensive Development Plan, as Ms. Kiefer had alluded to, and I will be discussing periodically. This BN classification, for lack of a better word, is I think what is considered the lightest or least intense of the commercial zoning classifications under the code, focusing on neighborhood businesses as opposed to highway-oriented businesses. And as you can see from this first slide, the property is located in an area that's rapidly expanding. You can see the development that surrounds it on all sides. I'll note that that farm field that's vacant to the, I will say, to the left of the star that identifies our property is the Knollwood subdivision, which I was actually involved in probably 15 years ago, and I understand is now coming back through the process to reconfirm several hundred residential lots on that property. But what you also notice is there are no services in this immediate area. The services are largely indicated by those yellow dots that you see on the slides. As being services, I mean commercial services. I will note that not indicated on here, but about a mile north of the property, there is, I believe, a combination convenience store and liquor store that's in the area. Yeah, I did it right. As the next slide shows, I mentioned it's located at the intersection of Peachtree Run Road and Irish Hill Road. Currently, that is a standardized intersection, a standard stop-controlled intersection. But I will later allude to a plan that DelDOT has for this area that's unrelated to this project, something that they already have in the works. But what you can also see, again, using left as a designation, running along the left boundary of this property, that's actually the location of the realignment of Peachtree Run Road that's going to be undertaken, again, separate and apart from this project. In fact, if you look at that slide, you'll see the outline or the existence of pavement. Somehow, somewhere, somebody paved it without necessarily getting all the DelDOT approvals, but that is the general location of realigned Peachtree Run Road. There's a gate there now that prevents you from gaining access to that area. And then at the bottom of that realigned road, as was discussed at the community meeting that I referenced earlier, DelDOT has proposed a roundabout in that area that's going to take the place of the stop control, or as you would see, the four-way intersection here. Again, that's something separate and apart from this project, but something that we will no doubt be asked to participate in if and when this is approved and we develop the property, and may in fact involve taking some of the land that's in our property as well. The next slide shows something that was referenced previously, and I know that this Levy Court is familiar with, but again, represented by the star, this property is located in the middle of the Kent County growth zone. And as you can see from the prior slides, there's been substantial development and growth around this property. Again, much of it lacking in commercial services. As I had mentioned, we did a community meeting here on May 26th. To discuss the project with the community, and also to address candidly, and I'm sure as you've all seen in this era of social media and blogosphere, a number of concerns being expressed about the potential for this project before we actually came before this body and talked about the project. So we wanted to hear what some of those concerns were, and you can see them listed here. I'm not saying that's all of the concerns, but these were the primary concerns. They included such things as 24-hour businesses, gas stations, liquor stores, and things of that nature, as well as 24-hour operations. And so what we indicated and committed to at that meeting, and this was followed up in the letter that I sent to Chestnut Ridge, which was the primary attendee at this meeting, is we would be willing to restrict this property from certain designated uses that you can see alluded to here, some of which, candidly, I don't think we're ever going to see again in our lifetimes. I'm not sure we're ever going to see another video store, but that's a permitted use in the code. I'm not sure that we're going to see a coin-operated laundry out in the middle of this area, but again, that's a use that's permitted in the code. So we wanted to highlight the uses that we'd be willing, through note on the plan or a deed restriction or whatever, that we would not invite to this property. I will note, and I said this at the community community meeting, but I think it's worth bearing out here that some of these uses are unlikely to locate here even if we weren't deed restricting them. For instance, liquor stores, the state law was amended a couple years ago to put the separation distance in unincorporated areas of the county. It used to be 9/10 of a mile, it's now 3 miles. There are actually 2 liquor stores within 2 miles of this property, meaning one could not come as a new use on this property. But again, recognizing the potential that those could go out of business and open this up as a spot, we are, as I said, are willing to include that as something not to locate on this property. Gas pumps are also unlikely, particularly I know a concern was like a Royal Farms or a Wawa, and in this particular area, despite what people may very really consider what the traffic is like, Irish Hill Road is not the type of road that you see those locations go to. They would go to Route 13 or Route 113 or something like that. But the other thing that's important when you're talking about gas pumps is that they are conditional uses, meaning if somebody wanted to bring gas pumps to this property, if it's rezoned BN, they have to go through this whole process again, meaning it's a discretionary approval of this body in terms of whether or not you could bring gas pumps. But again, it was something that we indicated we would be willing to exclude from this property. The other thing that came out during the course of the hearing, when you recall I was showing you old Peachtree Run Road and realigned Peachtree Run Road, is what becomes of the roadbed that is the former Peachtree Run Road if in fact DelDOT doesn't want to maintain it and so they vacate it. Typically what happens is that roadbed gets split, half going to one property owner and half going to the other property owner on the other side. So it would be our property and open space for Chestnut Ridge. There was some concerns expressed by some of the representatives of the Chestnut Ridge Homeowners Association that they weren't sure they wanted that additional land because it would add maintenance costs and things like that to their HOA. And I said what we said and committed again in this letter, if that is in fact the case, that we would be willing to take that other 25-foot strip, again, I believe it's a 50-foot right-of-way, and we would landscape the 25 feet that the Chestnut Ridge Association didn't want. So it would be our responsibility to maintain those areas. So that, again, that would be A, if it's vacated, which I think is a strong likelihood if the new road is constructed, and B, if in fact they decided they didn't want to take title to. So that's the other thing that's referenced in my letter. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is an idea that was actually has been in the comprehensive plan since it was the first one that I became aware of this in was introduced in 2008. That being said, there's certain specific criteria that you have to meet. These are covered in the department's report, but I will go through them here as well. And the first is change in the character of the neighborhood. And I think as the next 2 slides will show, you'll see that there's been a change since this was first discussed in the 2008 comprehensive plan. So this is an aerial photograph of the area marked with the yellow thumbprint as our property, and you can see the number of farm fields. You can see the beginnings of Chestnut Ridge being constructed. In 2018, again referencing the comprehensive plan dates that were discussed earlier, you can see that this area has been filled in. And again, as I alluded to in the prior slide, with all these houses being added to the area, hundreds of lots, if not several thousand lots, as I mentioned, other than some isolated commercial uses on the periphery, you don't really have commercial uses, which is why, again, I think this piece, which has been vacant for some time and is of the appropriate size, has been identified as a potential for commercial uses. The next is comprehensive plan compliance. And again, this is something that was discussed and shown in the comprehensive plan in both 2008 and 2018 as an appropriate use for neighborhood commercial. Again, this is map 7C that's referenced in the comprehensive plan that identified this area. As Ms. Kiefer had indicated, other areas were targeted for highway commercial or perhaps industrial. This property in both comp plans was identified for purposes of neighborhood commercial. And again, the idea is to locate certain commercial uses in proximity to significant residential development to avoid the need for longer trips to go to places, be they at Route 13 or be they north or south, for some of those uses, or doctor's appointments or daycare facility or something like that could be located on the property. Because again, these are uses that people would be traveling to in any regard, but it'd be nice to have them in a location proximate to these numbers of homes. And this again shows what I was alluding to. You see the property identified with the arrows in the two comprehensive plans, the 2008 on your left and the 2018 on the right, identifying this property as appropriate for neighborhood commercial uses. And this kind of goes to the point I was making earlier. This is the 1 to 2 mile radius around our property, and you can see represented by stars the primary commercial outlets. As I mentioned, there is about where that 1 mile circle is to our north, there is a single, I think, convenience store that's located in that area, but not a wealth of commercial development. The last two elements are represented on this slide by the stars. The first is adequate public facilities. That was thoroughly covered in the department's report. There is sewer service available. There is water service available. This obviously doesn't tax schools and things of that nature. DelDOT already has road improvements planned for this area, separate and apart from this project, that we certainly would have to participate in when it comes time that we're ready to develop the property. And also when we're ready to develop a property and have to submit a site plan, that could trigger other responsibilities for us with regard to DelDOT improvements. The last is the compatibility with the surrounding communities. And again, this is something that was referenced repeatedly in the comprehensive plan. And you can see the quotes that we've taken from either the BN zoning district language in the code or the comprehensive plan itself. So one of the goals of this classification is to reduce transportation costs by providing retail and service uses adjacent to residential uses, which again, I think this proposed rezoning would do. The comp plan goes further, noting for those areas designated as appropriate for BN, such as this property, the identified properties are located in and around existing residential communities that lack small-scale retail and service amenities. Again, this property is located at the intersection of Irish Hill Road and Peachtree Run Road. It's oddly shaped, as you could see from the prior pictures. It's really not conducive to residential development in those areas. But then I think that's another reason why the comprehensive plan has identified it as appropriate for BN zoning. This is the traffic circle exhibit that DelDOT showed at the community meeting that we were at. As I mentioned, this is going to be created and will likely have an impact on our property, thus reducing the total acreage. So that 9.5 acres is not counting whatever impacts would be from this, from New Peachtree Run Road and the like, but you can see it's a rather significant undertaking right at the property boundary in order to facilitate better traffic movement on Irish Hill and Peachtree Run Road. Again, you know, one of the comments that was raised, and I know you've seen it, is the idea that we don't need more traffic on these roads that this development may bring. And again, my counter to that, as I had mentioned earlier, is most of this traffic is already on the road, going to buy a gallon of milk, going to a doctor's appointment, taking a child to daycare, something like that. And so all this is doing is providing an opportunity that is closer to a lot of residential development and actually creates the opportunity in circumstances, certain circumstances, perhaps the ability to walk or even ride a bike to these to this location.
Mr. Tracy?
Yes.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yeah.
Do you know why DelDOT chose this intersection for improvement to a traffic circle?
My recollection, I'm going purely by recollection from Knollwood back in 2004, 2006, they were identifying a lot of intersections on Peachtree Run Road for traffic circles. How they landed on this, because this is something that postdates Knollwood, I do not know. But this, I think, with the decision to realign Peachtree Run Road and therefore create a four-way intersection, they thought it appropriate to do it there, again, as a way to manage traffic.
Do you know if there has ever been a DelDOT-sponsored traffic impact study or anything on this road?
I can't answer that. I'm not aware of them. I presume there have been, because they don't usually just decide we want to put a traffic circle in some way without during studies. I know, for instance, that Knollwood had to do a traffic study, and there were, I think, 3 different roundabouts, if not 4, that were identified in those plans back in 2008, most of which were on Peachtree Run Road. I think what DelDOT tends to do is, instead of having its own study, it's accumulated studies from all these other projects, and that's what has it determine what needs to go where and why. Again, this is unrelated to the rezoning request that's in front of you,
right,
because this was in process before we ever submitted this application.
Right, but it's related in such a way that there can be no construction on your parcel until this is completed, or DelDOT has made their arrangements.
Correct. That's correct. That's why I mentioned our property right now is 9.5 acres. It's probably not going to be 9.5 acres when they're done with it.
And given DelDOT's participation in the community meeting we had, that could be 5-6 years down the road.
It could be sometime down the road. We don't know. I mean, I don't think they already had it, if my recollection is correct, into the design phase. I think when they usually start committing design dollars, it's something that's going to be done, but whether it's done a year from now, 3 years from now, I can't answer that.
Do you know if part of the construction of a circle includes DelDOT doing a traffic impact study in the area?
I think it's the reverse. I think they took the information they gleaned from other traffic impact studies to come up with this as one of their solutions that they're introducing in the area.
Okay.
And I mean, we would obviously, if we are approved and we come back 4 years from now with a project, that project's going to be evaluated for traffic as well. And either they have enough information already and they can determine what the improvements are going to be, or it could be that we would trigger something that we would then become responsible for.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Tracy?
Yes.
Let me jump in real quick. I am a little more familiar with maybe what's going on with DelDOT. It's not necessarily the impact study as much as it is the Transportation Improvement District that we're pushing to be formed there. And we spoke about that at the community meeting, and DelDOT was actually here kind of to describe what it might look like, to include the circle, of which we understand that the county plays no role in whether or not to put a circle there or a four-way stop or a light. We just don't have that authority. That comes strictly from the state of Delaware and DelDOT. One of the things we do have a role to play is the implementation of the Traffic Improvement District, which I think is vitally important because it then identifies and requires the improvements to be made as well as the costs to be shared with the actual developments that occur in the area. So I don't know if that helps. And I do know that it is somewhat tied, well, it is tied to the development because you won't be able to, we're not going to entertain an application for development if in fact DelDOT is not through their process for what they're going to do with the road and such. So
yeah, and I think
why.
when I was referencing tied, I was saying that this project wasn't the trigger or the motivator for that improvement to be done, that improvement was already in the works. I completely agree that there's going to be a physical impact in all likelihood on this property. And then secondarily, as Commissioner Buxton indicated, it will have a timing impact in terms of when we could begin, for instance, construction on any project that was attached to this. Again, there's no construction that's tied to this request. This is literally just a request for a change of zone. Now, again, as we discussed at the community meeting and as we discussed at the Regional Planning Commission meeting, we wanted to give an idea, a concept idea of how this property could be developed so that people could it's kind of difficult to wrap your arms when you don't know what could be done on a property. So we wanted to show just a rough concept plan of a potential way to develop. This, of course, does not have the impacts of the traffic circle thrown onto it, but it does show realigned Peachtree Run Road, and you can see some plotted lots to the left. Those are on, I believe, the Woodfield plan. They just have never been constructed, but they do exist. So what this shows is a potential for three types of uses on this property. The long building would be a daycare facility. The building below that with the L shape would be like a general commercial building, which could either have office uses or commercial uses in there. And then the bottom is a standalone building like a restaurant or a bank or something of that nature. Again, this is just a rough concept of showing how the property could be developed. I want it clear it's not a representation of how it's going to be developed or what's going to be on there, but I wanted to give an example of how you could develop a property of this size. So, in short,
Tracy,
yes.
In referencing the picture, and of course, obviously, there's going to be a moment, well, there's going to be an opportunity for folks in favor to speak, and of course, there's folks here, individuals on the line, folks that have reached out to us that are going to have their concerns heard also. Some of the things expressed, and that's all I'm doing is try to identify what was asked to make sure that you narrow it down. Talk to me about the landscaping and the buffering requirements of sorts as you understand them. Is there a way to mitigate the lights, landscaping and such that it's not visual from the existing area?
Yeah, we have already committed. I mean, we're showing a general landscaping screen in between our property and Chestnut Ridge that does not take into account, for instance, if the community of Chestnut Ridge does not want to take title of the vacated portion of Peachtree Run Road. We have the ability and more so the willingness to enhance the landscaping if there's a desire in certain areas to enhance the landscaping, and that of course would be reviewed when we come in for an actual site plan for this. There are multiple ways that you can mitigate lighting. They can include low lighting, they can include cutoff lighting, which I think is fairly standard at this point so that the light does not spill up, but it stays on the property as well. There's obviously trash enclosures that can be built on the property so that dumpsters are not open, but instead they're in four-walled surroundings that keep trash in there. So Mr. Forrest, again, he has expressed more than a willingness to do what needs to be done to mitigate, screen this potential use from neighboring properties. Oh, sorry. So, in short, we believe that this provides a perfect opportunity for neighborhood commercial develop where it's needed and desired by the comprehensive plan. It's long been identified as an appropriate location for such use, and not even generally an area, but this specific property. It can cut miles off of potential round trips to various services depending on what relocates here. Indeed, you can look at the language in the comprehensive plan and the future land use portion of it where there's a lamenting of the fact that large-scale retail and employment centers focus on municipalities, leaving the residential development in Kent County with little access to neighborhood commercial uses. Again, this use satisfies that while being also sensitive to the concerns, Mr. Buxton, that you were raising. And again, I reference page 7.4 of the 2018 comprehensive plan, where preservation of areas for economic development is the caption. And it says, as stated previously, while Kent County has experienced a significant amount of residential development, commercial and industrial development in the unincorporated area have been lagging. A priority of this plan, being the 2018 plan, is to preserve areas appropriate for economic development where adequate infrastructure is available or can be reasonably provided. Throughout the plan, areas designated for future industrial, commercial, or smaller neighborhood commercial development have been identified. And again, this is one of these properties. So at the end, I think I need to say, you know, if this doesn't fit within the confines of the comprehensive plan, it calls into question why we even have plans of this type. As I mentioned at the outset, this is not a proposal where the developer has come up with an idea to rezone a piece of property and comes to the levy court and says, I would like to rezone this from AC to BN, and oh, by the way, the comprehensive plan needs to be amended. In this instance, it's kind of the reverse. The comprehensive plan starting in 2008 and 2018 has identified this parcel as appropriate for BN zoning. So it's not, as I said, an original thought that we came up with. It's something that Mr. Forrest engaged in between the 2008 and 2018 plan when you saw what the comp plan was calling for this property. And as I mentioned, as I walked through, there are the 4 criteria that we're required to meet in order to support this rezoning. I submit that we have done so, but I also think the positive endorsement of the department as supportive of the request and the unanimous vote of the Regional Planning Commission as supportive of this request is further evidence that we have satisfied our obligations with regard to demonstrating that this request is consistent with what has been identified for this property since 2008. And so obviously we would like for the levy court to give its approval to this request. And then I don't know if, John, did you want to say anything before we end our presentation? John Forrest, who's the property owner, you'll have to be sworn in by Mr. Eliason.
John Forrest, 37 Marion's Way, Felton, Delaware.
Mr. Forrest, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Commissioners and mainly residents that are in the audience, and I've spoken to quite a few of you in recent weeks about my plans here. First off, I would have never purchased this property had it not been approved in the comp plan to rezone this property. And mainly when I was looking at this property and it came upon me in 2013, I knew what kind of development we were moving forward with. Most of you in this room know that I'm a local business owner, and you know I'm located about 2 miles up the road from you. I raised my family the early times in the Woodfield subdivision. Then we moved 2 miles away to Harrison Knoll, so I am a local. And when we first got into this, my 23 years in Delaware, I've really liked to fly under the radar. And when this all started, it really took me out of my comfort zone because there were a lot of things being said on social media about my plans for this property, and I never really spoke to anybody about that. What I can tell you is I have no plans to put a Royal Farms or a Wawa like what was being advertised on this property. What Becker Morgan came up with is exactly what we talked about. I do not want a liquor store there. I do not want a package store there. I do not want anything that's going to lower the value of this area. I have a very good business in the area, and my kids live here. I live here. It doesn't help me to lower values of property. I'm trying to enhance the area. So I want you all to know that. And I want you all to know too, I heard a lot of, well, if this gets approved, I could bait and switch, sell the property, or I could change businesses. And I know a lot of you don't know me, okay? But what I will tell you is I like to sleep at night. And the Air Force taught me integrity. And when I sit up here and I talk to you all and I tell you that this is what I plan on doing with this property, it's what I plan on doing. This property, we really want to develop this in the next 4 to 6 years. It's going to depend a lot on Del Dot and the Circle, but that has nothing to do with this rezoning. That's coming regardless, and I want everybody to understand that. John brought up the property and somebody paved a road, and that was there when I bought the property. What wasn't there were the gates. I put the gates up. I was getting complaints that people were driving back there and doing things that shouldn't be going on. I installed the gates. A few years later, I started hearing word that people were still cutting back there, and if you live in that area, you know that I just paid to clear it about 3 months ago. That was so that nobody can drive back there and do anything wrong. I acknowledge the problem with crime and all that, and I hope you all understand that's why I did those things. So I just want you all to know that I'm very sincere about this. I'm being honest with you about my plans for this property, and anything you see on social media or people commenting, it's not coming from me. And unless you're talking to me or you're talking to Mike or John who know what the plan is, it's misinformation. And I just want you all to understand that. Any questions?
Any questions from commissioners?
Thank you.
Mr. Forrest, just one.
Sorry.
Is this what you envision, what's up here, or is this something that the architects or?
Well, when I sat down with Mike, I told him I was planning on doing a daycare center, and I did want like a boutique restaurant. I think I brought this up to the residents. I'm a big fan of Frederica Pizza House. I think it would be, something similar to that right there would be perfect. And then when we talk about the shopping center, we're thinking bakery, coffee shop. I'm not from here. I've been here 23 years, but I'm from the Philadelphia area. And one thing that I think this area is lacking is good bread and a bakery. So, I always, they're the things I'm thinking. I have no intentions of any kind of liquor or beer outlet or anything like that. I don't want to do anything that destroys the area. So.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tracy, you have any other testimony?
No, I just didn't know if there were any questions for me before I retired. Not like you awarded the people before me, but me just retiring back over someplace over there.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Tracy?
Exit stage right.
All right. All right, at this time, we'll ask for anyone that is in favor of this project to come forward. And like I said, come forward, state your name clearly and your address, and be sworn or affirmed. And please try to limit your comments. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Richard. I live at 131 North Lexington Drive, Felton, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I live literally probably a mile away from this place. I pass by it every single day. I fully support what Mr. Forrest is trying to do here. I completely agree with Mr. Tracy saying that this is following the comprehensive plan of 2008 and 2018. And I really support this and will like his vision and would like to see it come to truth or fruition one day. Thank you. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor? Anyone else in favor, please come forward. Please state your name and address and be sworn or affirmed.
My name is David Paget. I live in 204 Autumn
I'm sorry,
Terrace.
could you spell your last name?
That's Padgett. TT. And that's 204 Autumn Terrace, Magnolia, Delaware.
Mr. Paget, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
All right, so we moved to Chestnut Ridge, which is a development that backs up pretty much directly to this property in about 2009, and I was in high school about that time, and I remember some of my first jobs. I had to walk all the way up to Walmart from there. There's not really a lot of opportunities for young people in the area. And I think that's something that's really important for a growing community. I used to ride my bike up Peachtree Run until I got hit by a car one day. And as far as the traffic circle, I think that that really has a lot to do with it too. That's one of the most dangerous roads in the area. There was an accident there just the other day where both cars were totaled. Somebody ran off into the cornfield. But I think that those kind of opportunities are really important, and I really don't think that it's going to affect, the way people drive or the things people do in the area, because those people have lived in the area and they will continue to live in the area. I think that's really, Del Dot and DSP, I think that's more. But I guess that's really all I got to say. I fully support the plan. I think it makes a lot of sense from my experience over the past 12 years living there. And, I hope it goes forward.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here in favor of this project, please come forward. Please state your name and address, please.
Debbie Cadwallader, Cadwallader. I live at 105 Marion's Way, Felton, Delaware.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My husband and I have lived in the 4th District for 17 years. We're active in our community and we would like to see positive growth in it. The current facilities near our home leave a lot to be desired. They're run down, don't follow a basic business plan for positive growth, and have a lot of issues, including safety. I don't feel comfortable using those facilities and will drive further to go somewhere I deem safe. Some of the opponents are currently living on what used to be farmland. Years ago, there was opposition to building on it, but homes were eventually put on it and they live there now. It doesn't seem fair to me. They have enjoyed the benefit of county approval to build homes, but now want to stop anything else from coming in. Over the years, I've found when people are afraid of change or opposed to it, it may be due to lack of information or miscommunication in what the attention is. We want to maintain our quality of life. We like living here and what businesses we would participate in. Our population is increasing and our needs are increasing. We don't want to turn this into a metropolitan or urban area. Locals would support these businesses and would not generate additional traffic as they already live nearby. This particular piece of land is in the growth zone. I support passing limited commercial zoning on this piece of land so we can have some input on what is built into it. I like the ideas the owners live locally and are willing to deed against industrial facilities, gas stations, 24-hour businesses, liquor stores, etc. I see a need for a child daycare or a Sylvan Learning Center, senior community center, small storefronts for insurance companies, dry cleaners, salon, flower shop, veterinarian, physical therapy, eye doctor, or other professions. As far as this affecting property values, this would actually increase value to nearby homes. It would be so nice if we could build our community into a beautiful place to shop, such as the facilities at Longacre Village, or what you see in towns like the rebirth of Milton or Milford. As this area continues to grow, it makes sense to improve resources for us. It makes even more sense to have this opportunity to specify what can or cannot be built on this land. If you don't move forward with approving this limited commercial zoning change, I predict one day an outsider will come in and have the money to push forward with their goals, which may not mesh with the communities. This is your opportunity to assure the quality of life in our area. Let's not leave it to the outsiders. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any commissioners have any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else here in favor? Anyone in this room in favor? Please come forward.
If we have anyone on the WebEx that wishes to address the Levy Court on this in a positive manner, favorable, you can press *3 on your mobile phone. And you could also activate your raise hand function on your computer.
Caller number 9, you may proceed at this time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You may be sworn in and then proceed with your comments.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sarah Pletcher. I live at 107 Volkhorn Road, Magnolia, Delaware.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person this evening, but I'd like to share my support for the rezoning of the 9.52 acres at Peachtree Run and Irish Hill Road. I spent 4.5 years on the City of Milford Planning Commission, and I've taken the time to review the Kent County Comprehensive Plan. Since this acreage is within the planned growth boundary, the change of zone to neighborhood business commercial is an acceptance for the future land use area, as well as a business generator. I believe this use would be for certain zoning rather than more low-density residential as portrayed in the comp plan. The future housing development plan to the west of this parcel, along with the 3 Chestnut Ridge developments due east and the neighborhood to the north, is plenty of housing and in need of some commercial options that fit the neighborhood profile. I know your vote tonight won't be easy or taken lightly, and I thank you for the opportunity to present my thoughts for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Seeing no one, thank you, ma'am.
If we have any other
Thank you.
callers on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court, *3 on your mobile phone, or otherwise raise your electronic hand.
We have no more participants on WebEx wishing to speak on this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to open the floor for comments for those that are opposed to this project. Opposed to this project. Please come forward, and like I said before, if you're shy, don't feel bad. You can raise your hand later on if you're opposed to this. And if you feel that what you were going to say has already been said, don't feel like you're obligated to come forward and say the same thing over again. Again, you'll be able to raise your hand at the end. So, state your name and address, please, and be sworn or affirmed.
Wade White, 164 Winter Circle, Magnolia, Delaware, Double Run Hunt Club, just off Irish Hill Road.
Mr. White, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
My wife and I moved to this area nearly 27 years ago. Back then it was more farmland than it is now. But the current trend then, the trend now, and the trend going forward is residential. It hasn't changed like some people think it has. Okay. The one thing in the comp plan, there's a couple of questions here that was done in the survey. Should new residential and commercial development be concentrated in and around existing cities, towns, and communities? 72% of the people said yes. Okay. Then which one of the following growth policies do you support? Protect the agricultural and rural character of the county. That was 34.5%. And then develop or redevelop areas around and within city boundaries first before development in the general areas. All right, so this rezoning is not fitting that criteria. What attracts you to Kent County? 10th was shopping to proximity areas. 10th. Number 1 was affordable housing. Another survey, economic development. What do you think would be the most appropriate new commercial development in the county? Lands adjacent to major towns and cities and municipalities. Then the next was vacant land around larger cities, Dover, Smyrna, Milford, Harrington. Lands inside towns and cities. That totaled 65% of the people. As far as economic development, we have 2 big areas that's coming from economic development. Little Heaven, the master plan area, and Frederica, and there's a couple other areas. So 9.5 acres is not really going to do much in the way of economic development. Even with designated growth areas, open space and elements of the county's rural character need not be sacrificed. All right. Here's what Map 7B was somewhat referenced. It said the county's future land use map and immediate proactive comprehensive rezoning is not contemplated. All right. And then you go to map 7C and you read its description. Reflects a long-term development strategy where specific mixed-use, higher density, commercial, industrial, and employment-centered development could be supported, provided it is in keeping with the character of the area. 1, character of area is residential. 2, map C really is meant for such areas like the Little Heaven master plan area and the Frederica master plan area, not in the middle of the growth zone between 2 major highways. In fact, most of the development should be, commercial development should be adjacent to major highways. If you look at the map, this area that's somewhat designated for business neighborhood is the only area that's not adjacent to or near a town. And there's nothing all the way down to Milford. So I just find out why that was done. It's just a suggestion. The residents, majority of them prefer to keep it the way it is. That's our charm, that's our character, that's our slice of heaven. We can go 5-10 minutes to Magnolia, Canterbury, 15 minutes to Felton, 10 minutes to Woodside, 10 minutes to 15 minutes to Rising Sun. We have plenty of access through various roads to get to the services we need. And I contend that actually the land use map 7B should have been the one that was used, should have been the one that should have been used, because I went back to April 4th, 2019, an application CZ 1903. The guy was looking for a rezoning for BG down by Felton, between Felton and Harrington. And they were saying the character of the surrounding area has not changed to such an extent to warrant further commercialization. Additional rezonings in this area may be a detriment to the existing character and development of the area. They were referencing map 7B, but down there's all sorts of commercial and industrial. So they use the code 208408B to deny this one, but they want to use 205408B to approve this one. It's like two different standards that the staff came up with.
Mr. White, what was the end result of that application? Was it approved by Levy Court or denied?
I believe it was denied.
Can you reference the actual, so I can research that? Was it?
I had the staff comments. I don't know. I think RPC went denied. I don't know what Levy Court did.
It was in Harrington off the highway,
Yeah.
north of the town, correct?
Pardon me?
In Harrington on the highway north of the town?
Yeah, it was right on the, right adjacent to the highway.
I'll check on
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
And then I had a couple other things here. I contend that the future land use map should be the guide here and not the strategies land use map. Strategies land use map is for more closer to towns, closer to cities. Same thing with commercial. We're close to Magnolia areas. So I'm in opposition to this. The owner of this parcel, he has other options if it stays AC. My main concern, if it gets approved BN, it could open up the other parcels along Irish Hill Road for BN. And you're kind of letting the cat out of the bag here. Because once you approve one, others are going to come. We already know the land across the street, Susan Comeg's property, about 7 acres of that is now designated for BN, commercial. It's not in the comp plan, I don't think. What is it in the comp plan? But I found it on the web. So that's my fear. It's going to snowball into more and more BN or other intensive commercial for that area, when they should stay closer to the major highways. And we already have plenty of areas to go to get our services. So this is why I'm in opposition to this.
Mr. White, I commend you for your service to the county. You've been involved with the with land use, your opinions. Heck, you sat in that chamber back in 06, 07 when I was first elected. In fact, you were here probably most likely when I voted against some of the phases of Chestnut Ridge or others, because my argument was that we were creating a town. The capacity, the number of homes that we were going to consolidate in that area would be certainly larger than Magnolia, but would rival the other existing jurisdictions. So I think you're correct that it's a big push, it's a big number, but there's a lot going on out there. I have not made a decision at all. I'm just having a conversation with you. I wanted to recognize your service, your time in this. I value your input. Thanks.
And also, I may say, if you allow for more commercial in areas away from towns, you're going to be possibly taking away revenue from those towns because people won't be going to those towns to shop. I'm not saying they will, but it's a possibility. And people like to go where they want to, where the shop, and a lot of them will drive 3-5 miles to get to the store they like and know and have better prices.
Using your knowledge of the area, I mean, what do you suggest? Because there are these lots here long before I was here, not long before, but before I had a chance to weigh in. There are lots that are existing, ready to go forward. When you develop the area in such a way, doesn't it speak to the need for something like this there so you don't have to travel down Irish Hill or other? You said 10 minutes. When you had those homes, it could be 15 minutes. Now it's a 30-minute trip to go get.
I drive on
Tissue
Irish Hill
paper.
all the time, but I would still go to Linkside or to Felton. We don't know what's going to go in this location at this time. There's plans, but we don't know what's going in there. And we don't know who would want to go in there or even how effective it's going to be.
Agree, though, that the restrictions are unique and certainly appreciative because they've restricted some serious concerns that the audience presented during the public hearing. And that's not something required. So at least that is helpful to a certain extent. Regardless of whether or not it got approved, your experience is that's a pretty bold move.
Well, I prefer to keep the trend the way it's going. There's other opportunities under the AC zoning for the owner of this property. Like a child care center is a conditional use under AC. So that's one opportunity because he had mentioned that. I think there's other opportunities. It's just, if you start BN here, it's going to snowball.
And again, this is because of your experience, and maybe we're gaining an understanding in the audience. I hope. You've been here before. You're a seasoned individual when it comes to land use. You were there during the comprehensive plan that we speak about in 2008.
Yeah, I was on a couple of them.
It was what? You were what?
Yeah, I think it's 2 of them I was on.
Yeah, and the point I make is, it was a challenging time. We fought the fight, right? I ran on a platform of infrastructure before development, and in fact, Mr. White was helpful. Mr. Todd Hill, of course, was there. We were fortunate to implement the adequate public facilities ordinance, despite massive protests from the business community, development community, we'll call it. And when we, in fact, adopted the comprehensive plan that we're referencing now, that's why we're here. It is articulated, identified in the plan. Now, the plan doesn't guarantee it. It is a guide.
It's a guide, correct.
But it is useful when you have an investor, and we want investors in the area to have confidence in what has been, processed in a government. And this comprehensive plan in 2008 had numerous people on both sides of the spectrum. Some folks that identified themselves as anti-growth, some that identified themselves as smart growth, some folks that wanted just the freedom to do whatever they wanted. So it was an honest attempt to really blend the approach. And again, this predates most of your homes. Not the approval, but most of the homes. So it's how we got here. Yeah. There wasn't a lack of thinking. Clearly, this is not an easy situation. I will not leave here tonight without causing myself harm in some form or fashion. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But that's where we're just having this conversation, and I appreciate the fact we can do it in front of the folks that are here.
Yeah. One last thing, Mr. Buxton, I'd like to say that, I think we have to put some credence in the surveys of what the people said when we had those comprehensive plan meetings and talking about the comprehensive and how they are talking about where they like to see commercial and what drives them to certain areas. And, I look at this, it says protect the character, agriculture, and rural area within the growth zone, but also have the commercial development closer to the cities and towns and the major highways. So I don't know what to do. I know there's a lot of people here would rather see the trend continue the way it is. So I don't have an easy answer.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Before we proceed with the ones opposed, one of the commissioners has a question for Ms. Kiefer.
Ms. Kiefer, first of all, Mr. White alluded to the property across the street from this, Mrs. Cummidge's 125 acres. Are you aware of any zoning change requested for that property?
No, there's been no request.
Nothing's been requested?
No.
So, second thing is, one of the things, this property is zoned AC for homes. It's in the growth zone.
That's one of the primary uses of AC.
How many houses could go in there? quarter acre lots?
Density's 3 to 1.
3 to
3
1?
units per acre. You wouldn't get a whole lot in 9.5 acres.
But 18 homes could go in 6 acres.
Roughly, it's never perfect. You'd probably get closer to 2 to 1.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I have one question for the applicant or Mr. Tracy. Looking at the artist's rendering here, do you know yet whether DelDOT's going to allow you entrance and exits on both roads, Irish Hill and Peachtree, or is that just part of the rendering?
That's conceptual, although we're pretty confident at a minimum we would have a right in, right out, which is what we're showing on Irish Hill Road, and then a full access on the more minor road, Peachtree Run. DelDOT didn't say anything one way or other when we showed this concept, but again, it's just that, a concept.
Right, and it's just a concept, and DelDOT hasn't said, yeah, go ahead and do it yet.
That's
Okay.
correct. Absolutely correct.
Thank you. Okay, let's proceed. Anyone else in the audience who hasn't already heard something that they were going to say can please come forward and give your name, address, be sworn or affirmed, and we can use both podiums. If that podium is closer to you, sir, let's use it.
Robert Apito, A-P-I-T-O, of 17 Misty Meadow Drive in Woodfield. I happen to be on the Woodfield Board of Directors.
Mr. Rapido, do you swear or affirm
Yes, I do.
to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I'll keep my remarks brief, but I would like to point out several items that the 225 residents of Woodfield had asked me to bring up. We're running a little over 90-10 against the property. The overwhelming answer when we ask people why did they move here is because it's an agricultural rural area. They weren't looking for any development. One of the things I'd like to point out, on one of the maps that the gentleman put up there, he has the 2-mile radius. Well, if you have 3-mile radius, you're on Route 13. As a matter of fact, Walgreens from my house, and it takes me over a half a mile to get to Peachtree, is only 2.5 miles. So I don't think the driving is excess. The other thing I'd like to point out to this audience is that piece of property was originally Phase 4 in Woodfield and went into final bankruptcy in 2013 when the developer had to give it up. So there's quite a history there. I believe it's still on the map, approved for 97 residences. I might be wrong with the number. But when we did our request to join the county conservation district, they asked us, did we still own the property and did we know who did? And we said, no, we had no clue. Fortunately, we didn't have to get 97 votes from that property. Otherwise, we would have never made the conservation district. The one last thing I would like to suggest to the commissioners, I hope this doesn't go forward, but in the event that it does, and I've been on zoning boards for many years in New Jersey, so I've seen a lot of different things happen, both good and not good. I would like to suggest to the commissioners that they have the gentleman who's asking for the approval put money aside for both Woodfield and Chestnut Ridge in the event there's some unintended consequences and the people need some help for protection, whether it be traffic, lights, anything at all. And that would be very good. Like I said, I hope it's not approved, but if it is, a little extra money could help both developments. Now, I don't have anything else to say. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any commissioners have any questions? Mr. Howe.
Sir, thank you for being here. I got a question for you. What exactly would you like to see happen to that property? I mean, do you want it to remain the way it is forever?
I would like to see the original plan maybe modified to put homes on it. Whether or not, I believe this is an urban legend. Originally, Knollwood and I believe this piece of property was originally 1 acre, and I believe Woodfield was too. If you look at the ZIP +5s, every 2 homes have the same extension. Then it changed to a ½ an acre. Woodfield's a minimum of a ½ an acre. I believe then this piece of property was then rezoned for a ½ an acre. But like I said, that's urban legend. I just can tell you what the developer told me before he went bankrupt.
Okay, well, the reason why I asked was because, as was discussed, a number of residential homes could be put there far more than what's depicted there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a bunch of people building homes there, you're going to have much more traffic, and as opposed to what is depicted right there. So I'm not quite sure I see the logic there.
Well, I think the whole idea is to keep the character of the neighborhood the same. Whether or not you turn around and you go back to a 1 acre property, or somebody had suggested a nature preserve. Like I mentioned to the Planning Commission, we have a sycamore tree there that's 12th largest in Delaware, and we think it's 20 or 22nd largest in the United States. It's on the borderline of Knollwood. There are other things that can be done with that property without changing the zoning. And with that, I believe this is what the gentleman in the maroon shirt said. So I think that would be very, very helpful, that the developer still can get some revenue, but not change the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Gentlemen,
Thank you, sir.
ladies, thank you very much.
Anyone else like to come forward, express opposition?
Ethelene, Etheleen, Hunter, 48 McIntosh Circle, Magnolia, Delaware.
Ms. Hunter, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. So I reside at 48 McIntosh, which, looking at the photo, is the home that has the row of trees right behind it. So we would be adjacent to this new development. We moved into the property in late 2007, and at the time we were told, as you said, that it was property that was going to be developed into homes. And we were perfectly fine with that. We understood that. We were also told that Peachtree would be filled in, and the road was already paved by the time we moved in. So the developer had sold us on, it's a nice, quiet, private area. That road is going away. They're going to redirect the traffic, and it would be homes that would be put back there. I understand there needs to be expansion, but I don't think this is the appropriate place to put it. You're talking about commercial businesses. They need patrons to be successful. So there is going to be an increase in traffic. That intersection right at Peachtree and Irish Hill is already very, very dangerous. We have video cameras outside our home. We caught the accident on our video cameras. That was the head-on collision. We've had buses in the early morning hit cars. We've had accidents that have occurred at 4:30 in the morning. We have had a motorcycle fatality that occurred sometime between midnight and 8 a.m. So it's already an intersection that has issues and has problems. Bringing businesses to that area is just going to make that explode. It's going to be even more dangerous than what it is. I know you did ask Mr. Howell about more homes going there. Wouldn't that be just as busy? Homes aren't going to get deliveries at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. If you're trying to put a bakery in, they're opening at 6. That means they're going to have their deliveries coming in way before they open to the public. Same for a restaurant. You're not going to close at 7, 8 o'clock at night. You're going to be open till 10 or 11. You're going to be providing alcohol. These are all things that are going to affect my quality of life. As you can see, we've already tried to make the area more private because once Ryland lost that development, they hadn't finished the tree line. So we went ahead and put that tree line in ourselves. when we realized, oh, this road is not being closed down like we were told. Houses are not going in there. When we moved in, it was flat. I used to watch the geese land. It would look like snow in the fall with all of the geese migrating. And then we watched over time as the trees overgrew it. You couldn't see the road anymore. And we've been waiting, like, when is this going to become the private area that we thought we were moving into? Someone made a comment about Longacre and having businesses in the area. Being a resident for the past 14 years, I've seen businesses come and go in Longacre. The only things that have seemed to be stable are Piazza Mia and the library, but I've watched liquor stores come and go, game stores come and go, restaurants come and go. To be successful, you're going to have patrons that want to be there. So what happens when this is built and it's not successful? We then have buildings that are sitting there decaying. I look in our community and I see all of our strip malls that have empty buildings. Why would I want that next to me? There's no guarantee it's going to be successful. If it's a home put in, it's more than likely that that home at some point would sell. Also, about the size of the property, when we bought, we were told that the development was going to be about 200 homes, half-acre lots. Housing market dropped out. We weren't even sure if the development was going to be finished. They partitioned the lots to make them quarter acres and almost doubled the size of what the development was originally supposed to be. I understand that it's a growing area, but I don't think most people in the area have a problem with the drive. If we did, we would have looked for places where there was more public transportation, because there's nothing coming down that road. The buses stop up at the corner where they're talking about the liquor store and the convenience store is. There is no public transportation that's coming any further down. So that means that it's an area that's not even serviced. It's an area where they know people have vehicles and cars and are able to get to the facilities that they're looking for. So again, I just don't see this as being feasible. I have no qualms if it is to become housing, because that's what we were told it was going to be.
Thank you, ma'am. Any commissioners have any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Anyone else opposed? Anyone else opposed? Please come forward and give your comments.
Hi, my name is Sharon Wright. I live at 70 Bushel Circle, Magnolia, in the reserve at Chestnut Ridge.
Ms. Wright, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Okay, I moved into the reserve in 2007. My husband and I have decided to retire down here. We came from New Jersey, which is a very highly trafficked, high taxed, and strip mall crazy state. I loved New Jersey, but I couldn't afford to stay there. Couldn't stand the traffic. We loved the area. We loved the peace, the quiet. And now, like this lady had said, we were told that whole area was going to be homes, that we'd have more homes next to us, and that was fine. Now, you're talking about putting in a shopping center. Now, I don't know about you, but I drive down 13 and I see all this building, all these new Wawas and grottos and, I don't know, McDonald's or whatever they're putting in. And even the last week we were here, the planning board approved a new Dollar General to go in by the Woodside liquor store, the drugstore there, and the pizza place. So the lot next to it is going to have now a Dollar General. That's what like it, but the fifth one we have within, I don't know how many miles. About the daycare, according to a count that I received, there are 10 daycare centers within the 1 to 2 mile radius. So daycare center is really not necessary. We have a lot of them. The other thing is the whole thing is not about so much the traffic. It's about the way of life. I mean, I came here, like I said, it's my retirement home. I want peace and quiet. I don't want strip mall crazy. And I'm afraid that once you put one part in, it's just going to crawl down Irish Hill all the way down to Route 1. I don't want that. I really don't. That's not why I came here. That's not the nice area that I thought this was. Okay, and that's it.
Any questions from the commissioners? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Kenneth Allen, live at 854 Windrow Way,
I'm
Magnolia,
sorry, I didn't
Delaware.
get your name.
Kenneth Allen.
Mr. Allen, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do, sir. I have
Thank
a
you.
couple of questions really for Mr. Forrest regarding his rendition, because what I see in my mind's eye is an apartment complex. No? Okay. Because that wood is under the BN is doable versus the AC, it is not doable to put apartment complex in. And that worries me is that would drive our property values down and increase the traffic flow. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else here would like to come forward and offer testimony?
Hi, I'm Angela Williams, 228 Almonds Way. I just kind of have a comment. We moved from...
Ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
Be sworn.
Sorry.
Well, hold on. Ms. Williams, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Our family moved from Philadelphia 2 years ago down here. When we were looking, Magnolia was one of the areas that we're used to city life, urban life, corner stores, all the chaos. We moved from away from there to come to an area that was more pleasing to us to raise our son in a development, somewhere that wasn't as congested, somewhere where he was happy when we were driving down the road to say, oh, I know I need to make a left where the cornfield is, instead of the abandoned building or something like that. So, I totally oppose it. I'm with the other people that oppose it as well. It's an area where it's very peaceful. We came here because it's peaceful, it's family oriented, and even with the little bit of traffic from Peachtree and Irish Hill, that's already congested, like they said. So I totally oppose it. I just hope that it would just stay the same, keep its beauty, and be peaceful. That's it. I think that if we start building stuff like this, it's going to bring so much traffic. One of my concerns is, if they can't come down one of the roads, people are going to start coming into our development to try to make U-turns and start being in our development that don't belong there. So that's another concern of mine. That's it.
Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else opposed who thinks they have something different to offer? Please come forward.
My name is Ron King. I live at I don't know where I live. 271 Glen Forest Road, Magnolia, Delaware, in the Woodfield housing development.
Did you say King?
K-I-N-G, yes, King.
Okay.
Mr. King, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Because I'm kind of a long-time resident of Woodfield. I've been there about 20 years now. I've been involved in Polytech and different things, stuff. My kids went there. My kids grew up in the house development. It started with me and my wife. We lived out in the country out off Route 10, what I enjoyed, because I'm from originally Ellendale in the country. But she wanted to live in the house development, and so I told her we can, but I want to be out nowhere near the town, nowhere near a lot of, hassles and trouble and all that stuff. So we moved to Woodfield. That's where we picked. And it's been great. And I'm a little nervous sometimes when I talk. My main concern is, I know everybody got to make a dollar, and I understand everybody wants their future and stuff. But to have it there and then say that, oh, it's, we need something within 2 or 3 miles. We got everything for there now. Like everybody been saying, my main thing is, like everybody else said, the house is going to be there, and there's going to be a lot of traffic, and I don't care what's going on. it's not just people there. You're going to have people from everywhere. I mean, we already go to Milford, Georgetown, and every place else to go food or go see entertainment, whatever. What do you think everybody's going to come to? When they find out it's a new restaurant, they find out there's new stores, they're all going to come right there to look, and if they like it, they keep coming. My concern is I know we cannot predict the future, but what happens if the gentleman decides, okay, I had enough, or okay, I'm done, I'm going to go on my retirement, I sells the building, somebody gets it, and they let it run down. It has been done before, and we don't know, it could happen again. Or like the lady was saying, business comes and goes. If I'm going to stay there for another 20 years, which I'm 57, so I'm hoping maybe, if I do, I don't want a rundown building to look at in my backyard, you know. Houses, yeah. Yes, there's going to be traffic there on houses, like you said. Yes, there is, but it stops right there. With the stores and everything, you got traffic constantly flowing, more, less, depends on the day, on the time of the week. So that's my concern. I hope you guys, when you guys do talk about this vote and vote, remember, we live there. No offense. People up here don't live there. We live there. So please take that in consideration and our concerns that we're the ones going to have to look at this. We're the ones going to have to listen to the traffic and everything every night. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks, sir, for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else in opposition, please come forward. And again, please give us your name and address and be sworn or affirmed.
Good evening. My name is Darren Baker. I live at 906 Chestnut Ridge Drive. I just moved into the area. I'm coming. I'm sorry. I have to do that.
Mr. Baker, excuse me. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
Again, just to piggyback on what my fellow neighbors were saying, I'm new, very, very new to the area, and I'm still in transition from New York City. So, you know, me coming from New York, I hear the sirens and yelling and all this, and this is a very peaceful neighborhood for me and my family. I have a 10-year-old that I'm trying to bring up in a lifestyle that I came up back in the 80s. I know we can't go back in time, but as we have seen in recent times with the COVID and just the world is going crazy, there is no guarantee about the businesses like the gentleman with daycare and so forth and so on. It would be more befitting to have homes there opposed to the commercial traffic and the buildings. Like it was said earlier, when these buildings, these businesses can't provide for themselves, they be condemned for whatever the reason, another pandemic, God forbid, then this is an eyesore. And people, I have people coming from different areas of New York, New Jersey, Philly, and they want peace and quiet. I like to sit out on my front porch and gaze up at the stars. I don't want to hear the siren come running down because somebody got out of hand from serving liquor or whatever the case is. Basically, that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Any questions?
Prior military and law enforcement, so.
Thank you for your service. We all appreciate that. Thank you very
for
much.
your support.
And welcome to the area.
Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
your
your time.
comments. Thank
All
you.
right.
Anyone else has something different to offer here? Please come forward.
My name is Dolores Simmons. I live at 35 Cicero Lane, Magnolia, Delaware.
Ms. Simmons, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Okay, I'm very happy living here. I don't want change. Before I got down here, one of our daughters from New York was down here for 9 years. And with the craziness and everything, she had to come down here because we had lost a 5-year-old grandson, so she had to get away. So she said, Mommy, Daddy, I'm never going back. And she'd never been back. I had to get used to it when I got down here because it was so quiet. I love it down here. And it's good for my husband because he's a disabled vet. And I don't want change because like they said, what happened if the gentleman retire? What happened if he's no longer there? I had been through that before in New York, what they promised, and they put this in and that in, and the whole neighborhood changed. And that's when we left, and I had to run fast. And so we love it down here, and I agree with what everyone said. I don't like it crazy, busy, the sirens, rushing this. I worked all my life, I retired, I want to enjoy myself. If I knew it was going to be, if it was going to change down here, I wouldn't have picked down here. But we picked down here because it's beautiful in the section we live. No problems at all. So I don't want change, and that's it. Any questions?
Any questions? Get to the point here.
I'm talking
Any questions?
fast and nervous. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Anyone else that would like to offer anything different? Anyone else? Come on forward, sir, and give us your name, address, and be sworn or affirmed.
Marvin Fraser.
Address, please.
182 Almonds Way.
Mr. Frazier, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I've been down here since I did 26 years in the Air Force, retired from Dover Air Force Base. I've been down here since '97. I was looking at homes from the first day I got here. I came from Turkey. From Turkey, I was in San Antonio. So when I first got here, the houses weren't accommodating for my furniture. So I had my furniture in storage for a couple of years because if I could get my bedroom furniture in the house, I couldn't get my living room furniture in the house. They were built for like Thomas Edison or something, so I didn't move into a house when I first got down here. I looked at the development on Highway 10, that was by rail, and there's beautiful homes out there, but it was right off Highway 10, so it wasn't conducive for me. Then I looked at the homes that were being built by Kraft, and I didn't like they had like electrical conductors right near the soccer field, right? So I didn't like that either because I was more concerned about my wife. She has asthma and all this thing. I don't want being around anything that reminded me for where I'm from. I'm from New York City, so I didn't want to be around that. Then I looked at behind Walmart. But Walmart, the development was nice, but it was right behind Walmart, and the traffic wasn't good. When I drove down Woodley Town Road, I think that's what my wife told me was, the atmosphere in Magnolia, it was compelling. It draws you. You see the houses, you see the field. It's just soothing, it's relaxing, and after working out on the base, you need that kind of environment just to unwind. And then you make that right, and then you're right there at Reserve of Chestnut Ridge. When I moved into Reserve of Chestnut Ridge, I think I was the third one to close out there because I had some contract issues. I would have been the first. But what I'm saying, driving down that main road, whatever that is, I'm real bad with names. That's because being in the military for 26 years, I used to just read the name off your chest, and that stuck with me. So I'm institutionalized like that. What's that called, PTSD or something? Anyway, so driving down that road to go to Route 13, it is soothing. It's relaxing. I mean, the only thing I have to worry about is deer. Occasionally a deer will shoot out, so I'm scared of it or whatever. But other than that, it is relaxing. The reason we moved there is because it calms us. It gives us an environment of Delaware that people they're not even aware of. When my family come down and they see this, they're like, they're ready to move into my basement. I'm like, no. You got to go get your own house. But it's a really calming environment. I'm not one to bust anybody's bubble. I'm kind of upset that he didn't make the reserve of Chestnut Ridge grass as green as he made his, because that does look appealing. I'm not knocking it. If that was to happen, change happens, and everybody's afraid of change. Other than public speaking, it's the biggest fear that we all deal with. Being in the military, these military spouses, they have dealt with change constantly. Even when they weren't ready for it, they had to do it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying what we have right now is good. That's what I'm saying. If that was to come to fruition, and Mr. Forrest did live up to that, and for some reason, God blessed him to be around for another 10 or 15 years to continue that kind of work, that would be beautiful. I'm not knocking it. But what I'm saying, the people here that's speaking against it, we just love Magnolia because we think about that flower, that magnolia flower, and that's what we get when we go home. We get that relaxing magnolia feel. Even though I haven't been to that restaurant that says Magnolia Diner, I need to go there because I drive by it all the time. But I'm just saying we get that soothing, that Delaware welcome that we don't get from our metropolitan cities. Or I work in D.C., Troy works in D.C. So when we come home, we drive 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get home. So if we're driving 2 hours to get back to this place, it must be a reason why we're doing that. You know, I'm just saying, I love it. Ms. Forrest, I'm not trying to destroy your plan because I think anybody has a dream should go for it. I'm telling you to go for it. But what I am saying, we love what we got. We love what we got. Any questions?
Mr. Frazier, with your military background, maybe, and I held back from communicating with anybody because it appears maybe I'm coming at you or whoever else is at the mic, and I'm certainly not. I'm going to share with you some quick thoughts as I listen to some folks. Your statement is my greatest concern. Your statements are my greatest concerns. What brought you here is what's bringing other people here, and there is no door that says they're not going to come. It's going to happen. You can see it in the concept right next door. You can see it in the open field across the street that yet to have homes. They're going to come. They just are. And we don't have laws against it. I can assure you, and you know this because you were here early on with Chestnut Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
This chamber was full of individuals who said, you're going to ruin Magnolia. Ruin it. I mean it. That's what they said. They moved forward anyway. What we did was we put in rules and laws and codes that mandated that new concepts required X, Y, and Z, like the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. So my biggest fear is that when we articulate against this, and you do, and I see, and you're staring right through me, and I get it. I'm at great peril in sharing this. I understand that too. My eyes are wide open to this. If we ignore this and yet continue to grow, Magnolia will not handle the amount and volume that's going. West Birdie Lane will not handle it. I live a mile or so from here as the crows fly. So no, I don't live across the street, but I live in that area. 100% I do. I was born and raised in this area. So that is my greatest fear, that what brought you here, we cannot keep up with if we don't introduce some things like the 72% of people who said, we want to build these types of things. This is not economic development. This is business general. It supports neighborhoods. It's not a job creator. It supports neighborhoods if we can do it right. You're living in a town without any support services. You are. A failure to adequately plan for the development that occurred prior to my being here, and many of you, a failure to put in proper infrastructure enabled what's happened over there to occur. The road Irish Hill isn't supported. The only way Irish Hill gets supported is if we pay into it through a traffic improvement district. DelDOT requires that new growth pay into that. If we don't have it, Irish Hill remains as is. Those things happen. So look, I get it. I know where I am. I'm out on the ledge. It is what it is. but I'd be misleading you or misrepresenting you if I didn't share at least those thoughts. That's it. That's where I am.
I have one side concern, and I
Sure.
saw this happen in Texas. Texas was very much like Delaware. It was a lot of agricultural fields, and it was wide open. And then they went into massive development like I'm seeing here. But what they didn't plan for is just like the structure development of sewage and runoff and things like that. Because of agriculture, when it rains, the agriculture absorbs that water. But once you start putting concrete down, there's a runoff that nobody's calculating. So I understand that, because basically what's happening in Houston right now, they're flooding every time they get 2 inches of rain. And they're flooding like 6 feet of rain coming into your houses because they didn't plan for that. So my concern to the board, no matter which way we go forward, whether it's residential or whatever, I'm hoping it is, that we plan for the runoff of the water. Because Mother Nature can be our best friend or our worst enemy. And that, like you said, when I first moved in there, I could look out my back door and see those fields and those trees about a mile away. When it got bigger and bigger and bigger, I was like, asked my wife, I said, what happened to those trees? So I understand. I understand you said you showed resistance to the mass development because basically what we're saying now is the same thing you said 14, 15 years ago. My thing is, if we're going to develop any way, shape, or form, please think of the runoff that has to happen. It's also my neighbors. I'm telling y'all better get Generacs and things like that, because the industry, United States power, is 20 or 30 years old. It needs to be redeveloped. So, every time there's a rain or thunderstorm, occasionally we get a little brownout out there, but that's expected. But I will ask you to please look into the sewer system, the runoff on these developments.
Mr. Fraser, it's valuable, and what you're stating is accurate. And folks that are in Chestnut Ridge are living at Woodfield, for example. One of the things we did was ban septics. No more septics on large-scale developments. Makes no sense, right? It wasn't infrastructure before development. So you can't build a Woodfield anymore. It has to be connected to sewer, right? The problem with Chestnut, it was approved in 2004. It's bigger than the town of Camden. It's taken 15, 16 years to build out. The water doesn't connect. You're exactly right. The runoff and drainage doesn't work. The problem is the plans are old. That wouldn't happen in today's day and age. We have addressed those issues. Regrettably, you're dealing with old infrastructure plans. We can't fix those because it's retro.
Are you telling me I need to move? Is that what you're telling me?
Negative. I'm telling you that currently, right now, the Conservation District is actively working to correct and remedy some of those things. Hence, that's why the development hasn't been turned over yet, even though the developers pushed exceptionally hard to require the county and the development to accept it. We're going to try and hold them to the fire to fix it, but you should not have that many homes in one development with that type of infrastructure. We approved tonight the wastewater, the waste management, not wastewater, the water management districts tonight for Knott's Landing. Woodfield went through it. I'm not sure Chestnut's there yet because it's an initiation by the developer. Those are things designed to improve exactly what you've talked about. Because we get it, I get it, we're in a tough spot. You're in a tough spot.
Thank you, Commissioner Buxton. Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Appreciate your comments. And full disclosure, a lot of you may not know that Commissioner Buxton and I live about a half mile from each other, and we both live probably closer to Magnolia than most of you. So we appreciate the area as well. With that being said, anyone else here have anything different to offer that we need to hear?
Hi, I'm Kathy Hettinger, 813 Chestnut Ridge Drive, Magnolia.
What did you say your last name was?
Hettinger.
Hettinger.
Correct.
Ms. Hettinger, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do. Okay, I have really nothing different to say, but I would like to comment on you. They will come. So I agree, they will come. So build, and they will come. Build houses for them to come. We don't need a small little store there. Stores are 10, 15 minutes away. I'm from New York. I'm used to driving a half hour to a store. 15 minutes is nothing to me. So build and they will come, but build them homes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, about a baseball field, yeah.
Field of
Near
Dreams.
a cornfield, right?
Field of Dreams, and I'm not saying building they will come. I'm saying that we're looking at it. I'm looking at it from a very honest perspective sitting here. That's it. That's it. I'm not saying, hey, come on over and build. I don't want that. I'm just honest. This is where I look bad. I badger, and I'm not trying to.
Please give us your name, address, and be sworn or affirmed, please.
Brian Moritz, 818 Chestnut Ridge Drive in Magnolia.
Your last name is spelled what?
Moritz, Moritz.
Mr. Moritz, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do. So I moved here about 6 years ago with my wife, active duty military, and then we've separated, and now we're here to stay in Magnolia in the Chestnut Ridge area. I've read the recommendation report dated 1 July, and it actually recommends approval. So it's my understanding the vote, is this vote tonight? Is that what's happening? So, you know, and earlier tonight, since I've decided to stay in Delaware and Magnolia in particular, I've become a little bit more active in local government. And so a lot of it, I'm learning the processes and how you all manage the city and whatnot. Earlier tonight, pretty cool to see a guy retire from state service. And sir, you mentioned it's been, what, a year or something till you could even stand over here and acknowledge him. Some of these areas where we live, we've all been in this COVID pandemic. This bill or this resolution, whatever you would call it, came out in about April, I think, is when I've heard of it. And around that time, I know a lot of the hype, at least with a lot of the residential people in the neighborhood, was looking at if schools were even going to be open. So I guess what I would ask you tonight is to maybe delay the vote. In the resolution, I saw 22 of 23 protests in strong opposition of the development. It sounds like you, sir, have got a lot of concerns. There's a lot. I think maybe we're putting the cart before the horse as far as traffic goes. I think whether you build houses or you build a business, you're going to have traffic. And I feel like maybe there's a little bit more research, more things that need to go into looking into once you open this Pandora's box of opening businesses. I think then all these other agricultural, all these other plots of land could open up the doors to more and more commercial properties, which personally I think has the short-term effect of potentially raising home values, but really long-term, I think it's just going to degrade home values. And the reason that a lot of these New Yorkers and Jersey people have moved down here, like you said, and like we all know, the growth here is I think, inevitable. However, I think opening the door to the commercial properties in this area is maybe a little bit, I think just while I oppose, and while I'll say full disclosure, I came here in strong opposition, and then listening to the first gentleman speak about the property with the fancy slides, I continued my opposition. Once I listened to Mr. Forrest, I will say that I actually opened my eyes a little bit. I think there is a very big misinformation campaign in social media. And so when I get back to the fact that you came out, it's been a year or so since you could actually in person acknowledge some of these people. I've looked at our state General Assembly can't even get into the building to do their own legislation. And you've got all this technology, the neighborhoods in the area, I can't even have an HOA meeting where I can sit in our HOA and actually listen to the board talk. So the ability for the community to actually organize has been very, very, very hampered by this pandemic and by everything associated with it. So what I would ask is that the vote be delayed a little bit more so you can hear some of the more protests and, quite frankly, some of the things in favor of opening this, what I would say potentially, like I said, listening to Mr. Forrest, I'm actually more hopeful and actually more open to the idea based on a local person building a business that could actually maybe bring home values up. But I do have some serious concerns that were brought up in a lot of the opposition, as far as, honestly, most of the strip malls I drive around here are just deadbeat, and they come and go, and I think those are some serious concerns. So I guess the end, really what I'm looking for is just a delay in the vote.
Any questions?
Just a general statement in the conversation to the commissioners. Mr. Morris, I appreciate your time and sharing your information. I spent time walking and hitting doors yesterday in the community, making a few phone calls, shared the community meeting, made calls to DelDOT, and I made it a point tonight to make sure that I didn't shy away from brutal honesty, right, about where I was. Your point about a delay wouldn't make sense, except the same thing that I considered coming here today. My concern right now is DelDOT. My concern right now is the lack of a transportation improvement district. I spoke on the phone with DelDOT yesterday and pressed for when that would occur, because I think that's vitally important. I ran on infrastructure before development. I articulated some of the concerns. The one that's not answered right now is DelDOT. I know that this application cannot move forward right now with an actual construction, until DelDOT makes their final decisions. So what I'd look for, what I'd like to see, is that DelDOT and the county hammer down the start date and what it's going to look like for the Transportation Improvement District, so that we can have a clear understanding of what's envisioned in that area in regards to improvements to the roads and who's going to pay for it. And I know, speaking to DelDOT, that can come in a very timely fashion if we put an emphasis on it. And I think something like this puts an emphasis on it. If this comes, someone else could come. Someone else could move down the road, houses, whatever. So my suggestion is just that we offer up a tabling for the specific purpose of communicating. For me personally, it would be communicating with DelDOT and the county to get the traffic improvement district hammered down, when we're going to share in the information, when we're going to articulate moving forward how it's going to look, so that we can answer those concerns to the public. Commissioner Sweeney?
So, sir, I agree with Mr. Buxton. We can't table it to hear more testimony. Everybody in both communities along Irish Hill Road have had ample opportunity to either attend the RPC public hearing, to now attend Levy Court's public hearing. We have a couple dozen letters from people. We have petitions from a lot of people that live in Chestnut Ridge. So they've had ample opportunity. We can't delay it based on more testimony. We have to put a pin in something. So Mr. Buxton's suggestion is to table this until we get the results from the Department of Transportation's Traffic Improvement District, which I think, did they give a timeline, Mr. Buxton?
Being specific here, because I don't want to avoid any sort of a tough decision, and I don't want to avoid folks communicating with us at all. That is not the intention. I don't want to give that impression. If that's the impression, let's move on. All I'm stating to you is what was articulated, that we are not in a rush situation. A reasonable request was asked. We can generate more information that can better formulate a decision. At a minimum, make sure the infrastructure is going to be there or the concept is there. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a delay. Well, it is what it is. I've already shared my thoughts, so my heat's over with. So I'm already in the fire. So you make the decision on what we're doing.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else in opposition?
Sir, you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Anyone else like to come forward? Opposition? Anyone come forward in opposition?
We have any members of the public on WebEx who wish to address Levy Court at this time? If they are by phone, *3, raise your hand. And you can also raise your hand on your computer.
I see no hands raised in opposition on WebEx at this time.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Sweeney, you have a question of the audience?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So my question is this. By my count, I think 7, maybe 8 people came forward, and there's considerably more people in the audience. How many are from Chestnut Ridge who opposed this, just by show of hands? How many are from, thank you. How many are from Woodfield who opposed this? So there's still a couple. Based on that information, we have a lot of opposition, but if we table this, there will be another opportunity for public input because we're tabling the public content. We'll table this until DelDOT provides us results from a traffic improvement district. That'd be my motion.
Let me close the public hearing first.
Thank you.
At this time, unless any of the commissioners have any questions or comments, I don't see any. We'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Sweeney, whose district this is in. By the way, Commissioner Buxton's district is on the other side of Peachtree.
Districts in the audience.
They are. Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks, sir. So just by note, if you look at Peachtree Run, right now it runs straight along that green stripe just below Chestnut Ridge. So that puts this property in my district. When they realign it, it puts this property in Mr. Buxton's district. Why we couldn't wait 4 years for that to happen. Look, this isn't the first and it won't be the last of any contested zonings that Kent County Levy Court faces. But we want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing by the homeowners around there. We want to do the right thing by the developer by giving them every opportunity. At this point, I move to table. Application ordinance LC 21-10 until such time that DelDOT can provide us information concerning the traffic improvement district.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Maston to table. Any questions? If not, can we have roll call?
Mr. President, I just want to clarify the motion, make sure that staff understands what the intent is. What I heard was until DelDOT provides information about a transportation improvement district, are we just looking for information, or we want the formation of a transportation?
The TID.
Which really is a formal agreement with Levy Court, like we saw with the TIDs that we created at Little Heaven and South Frederica. There was a formalized agreement between the county and DelDOT for those areas. Is that what we're speaking about?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to restate the motion?
Now, my motion would be to table ordinance LC 21-10 until such time that DelDOT and Levy Court forms a traffic improvement district in this area.
Is that suitable for a second?
Yes, second. The question on the motion.
Okay.
The idea is the DelDOT with the county puts forth this plan, comes to an agreement on the plan. Starts with us, moves to them, moves out, and then we bring it back. All right.
That's correct.
Okay, Commissioner Sweeney made the motion, Commissioner Masson seconded. Or was it Buxton? Who seconded?
Second. Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Buxton seconded. All right, can we have a roll call, please, on the motion to table?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Sweeney.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, comments?
Mr. Hall?
I'm voting no because I could be wrong, but I believe that a TID effort is, we're talking 2 to 4 years. probably. So I don't think that's quite fair to the landowner that's quite a tabling. That's quite a delay to get a decision. So I vote no.
Mr. Howell?
I'll go ahead and vote yes. Understanding Mr. Hall's consideration, we don't really want to put anybody out, but I mean, it's just one of those times when we have a conflict and we need some more information. So it's a good move for now. So, yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, and I did this, I believe that the time frame is less impacted by the formation of a TID in as much as the delay that's caused by the realignment of Peachtree, because the developer can't move forward until Peachtree is realigned anyway, so, which is 5 years out. My vote's yes.
Mr. Pepper?
My vote's no. I think we've got enough testimony from came in through the RPC, from the folks here in the audience tonight, people out in Zoom land, and the staff, and the road alignment is going to hold them up the same amount of time anyhow. So I think we got enough information to make a decision tonight. So my vote's no.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 5 yeas, 2 nay.
Thank you. The motion to table has passed.
Mr. President,
Mr. Buxton.
is there a clarification on the maybe should have been done. The cart's been left the barn, the horse has. Clarification on the TID. Because my understanding is that it was a 6-month process. That in talking with DelDOT today, that if we get it on the burner, then it gets into the process, then we can move forward with a consideration. So is that not articulated in your motion? Your motion is a completion signed all the way out.
The formation of the TID. Sarah, what's the time frame for TID right now with DelDOT?
We started Cheswold about 18 months ago, and just yesterday got the preliminary numbers from the consultant. So it's roughly 2 years.
Roughly 2 years.
At best.
So I mean, still puts it within the time frame that the developer would have experienced with the realignment of Peachtree anyway.
I can't speak to how quickly DelDOT would work, or if DelDOT would move faster if a development moved faster.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Buxton, I mean, for that one, it could be up to 2 years. I don't know if they can fast track this, or if they're even interested in fast tracking this, given the plans that they have for the area.
The problem is I don't want to flip in front of the audience. I want to make sure that I'm clear in where I was. This is a failure on my part, I believe, because my understanding was it was January, as early as January, that we could get started on this thing. And so if we could then inform the community as to what that involves, we could bring this application back for discussion. So, yeah, I don't know how to put the cart back in the horse back in the barn. I don't know if there's even an option to do that. Is there an option to change the motion? Mr. Pettit-Damage, do you recall an option to change the motion? And I hate to be, in this position, but
my understanding, and the attorney's on the line as well, but a tabling motion rests the matter until there's a motion to lift an item from the table. Mr. Eliason, would you like to opine?
I totally agree with that. We could do a motion to lift, but it would have to be on a future agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public hearings for ordinance LC 21-10. I sincerely thank all you folks for taking time out of your schedule, especially on a hot summer night, to come here and express your concerns. And believe me, we're not taken lightly. So we appreciate everything that was mentioned tonight. We appreciate the letters, and just want you to be safe on the way home. So take care. And I realize there is deer traffic out there, so be careful with that. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Take care.
How are you, Mr. Boxer?
We're not done yet.
We're not
still-
done yet.
we're
No
still
time
in
to
session.
socialize right now. Thank you anyhow.
Sorry. Sorry, Brian.
Okay, we'll continue with the meeting. There's no old business. Have new business. Mrs. Maston got the introduction of Resolution 3894.
Okay, introduction of Resolution 3894, fiscal year 22, Delaware Transit Corporation reimbursable transportation budget for public hearing on Tuesday, August the 17th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 2, introduction.
Introduction of ordinance LC 21-14, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of Kent County refunding revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,500,000 for the benefit of the American Legion Ambulance Station 64 Incorporated to refinance its ambulance station located at 900 Smyrna Clayton Boulevard in Smyrna, Delaware for public hearing on Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. LC 21-14 has been introduced. We're now moving on to some appointments for redistricting. The first item on the agenda, Mr. Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I make my presentation, I just want to say this is probably the most fair I've ever seen since I've been sitting here on Levy Court. We have 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and one independent. Is that correct, Mr. Pettermosh?
As proposed, the nominees, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to appoint Glenn Garvey as my representative for the 3rd District.
All right, that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Second motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Howe, was it? Commissioner Howe. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Next one, Commissioner Buxton.
A motion that I find my paper and put that in. Oh, okay, so I make a motion that we name Matt Butcher to the redistricting commission.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Maston. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Matthew Butcher has been approved. Mr. Sweeney.
Thanks, sir. I move to place Mike Devers from Longacre Village on the Kent County Redistricting Committee.
Second motion.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Angel to appoint Mike Devers. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton? Absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Appointment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to appoint Jackie McCabe to the redistricting commission.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Hall, second by Commissioner Howe. Give me a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton? Absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Mr. Howe.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I nominate Margaret M. Dean for the redistricting commission.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Howe, second by Commissioner Hall. Give me a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton, absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Margaret Dean has been appointed. My appointment is Paul J. Fleming.
Second the motion.
And roll call, please.
Mr. Buxton, absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Paul Fleming has been appointed. Mrs. Maston has an appointment.
My nominee is Temple Carter.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Maston, second by Commissioner Sweeney to appoint Temple Carter. And roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton, absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Do we have any executive session tonight?
No, I don't believe. Mr. Eliason, are you still on?
Yes. I don't have anything for executive session this evening.
Okay, no purpose for an executive session tonight.
Number two.
If I may just follow up on the appointments, thank you all for your efforts at getting the appointees lined up. We now have the redistricting commission in place, and we will be reaching out to them to have an initial meeting and try to arrange a time and date for that. If you could help us get phone numbers and or email addresses for some of those that we don't have, that would be helpful. We'll try our best to get them. If we run into any concerns, we may have to reach back out to you. And the redistricting data from the U.S. Census Bureau is to be released on the 16th of August. And so we hope to meet with the group as close to that date as possible for the initial meeting. Thank you again very much for your efforts.
Thank you. Commissioner Sweeney.
Mr. Pettimonge, while we get the census data from the federal government, don't we have to wait for the state to complete their EDs?
No, we're going to have, and what we did last time as well, we have to proceed and get ours done. We're under time constraints. And what happened in 2011 is we actually had our map finished before the state did, and then the state Department of Elections got up with us, and we had to make a couple of adjustments, very minor in nature, just to avoid separating or splitting election districts.
Right.
So they don't have to stand up additional polling places. So we'll probably have that situation again, but everyone is operating on a very constrained time frame now because of the census data coming out so late. In 2011, the data was out in March, and we were completely done by the end of June. And then we made some adjustments in July after the election office got up with us. So this time it's going to be really tight. And the legislature set the deadline of November 7th to have everything done. So, but we need to proceed with ours.
Gotcha. Thank you.
How many meetings did you have last time?
Well, last time we had 7. And I've been estimating anywhere from 5 to 8 meetings, I think that'll be we'll be within that time frame. So,
All right, thank you. Commissioner Angel, we need to read item number 2, please. Make a motion.
I move to go into executive session, the meeting following the combined business meeting of August 10th, 2021 for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for publicly funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation, and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004 B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner, second by Commissioner Sweeney. A roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton? Absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. We're slated for executive session on August 10th. Informational items. Mr. Angel.
I was just going to ask if Mr. Hall, you, myself, will get the city of Dover check for the police departments. We're going to be getting those sometime soon. Mike? The police checks that we can set a time.
They are ready. The checks are in the office, and so as soon as we determine who is going to get, there's some coordination amongst you all that need to happen, but the checks are ready to go.
Okay. Well, like I said, Mr. Hall, Mr. Pepper, and I will set a time for ours.
Yeah, we would just ask that once you set that time, then come in and get the check the day you're taking it. We don't want it to sit in the glove box or anything like that.
Definitely.
And I would ask that all of you, if you're coordinating with your municipalities to drop the checks off, to try to coordinate with me as well. I would like to go to as many as I can. So if at all possible, Mrs. Maston has already reached out to me for Clayton and Smyrna, and I appreciate if the rest of you do the same. And that way we could have a showing of at least 2 commissioners there to present the checks to the police departments. And by the way, I've gotten quite a few calls from the police departments thanking us for doing this, and they really appreciate it. And like I told them, the only requirement is that they spend it in their police department, not for town projects, but the police department, and then that they send us a letter as to what they used the money for. So that's what I've asked of the ones that I've spoke to so far. So if for some reason I'm not able to attend the check presentation with you, please pass that along as well.
Mr. Pettimaj, do we have a cover letter to go with that stating what the purpose for and how that should be spent?
Yeah, we will. We will have that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other informational items? I just have one. Last Wednesday night, I went to our park series of music in the park, and of course it had rained and it was threatening to rain, so they moved it to the library, and they did the best that they could. But the band reunion was there, quite a large crowd. They performed for about an hour and a half. Outstanding job. Everyone loved it. So if you haven't been to any of these Wednesday night music festivals yet, please try to attend. Any public comments? Seeing none, any commissioner comments?
Crowd.
Mr.
Sweeney.
Thanks, sir. On Friday night, Mr. Pettimaj and I had the opportunity to judge the statewide 4-H public speaking contest, and they were absolutely amazing. These kids are scary in their skills to be able to speak in front of a large group of people. I think we only had one Kent County winner, right? Out of all 4 categories this year. Yep, the senior. But it was really scary how really good they are. First thing I do when I go home is check to see if they live in my district, because I know they'll be running against one of us in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Angel.
Thank you. On Sunday at the Veterans Home, my father took a turn for the worse, and the paramedics were called. I just wanted to let you know, I did call Colin Faulkner to say that Kenny, when he got there, he was so professional, so in tune. The nurses and the issue that was at that time was a little rambunctious to say, and he was able to get things done in a fast, smooth way and get my father to the hospital. And I just want to let you know that when I called Colin, I did ask him how we were doing with the paramedics, and he has hired and is looking to hire more, and that the schooling that they're going through is excellent, and he's even got one coming from a foreign country. So I just want to let you know that that's moving forward, since we just did another retirement for a paramedic tonight. So I think it's, 3 now, Mike, in last 2 months? So, and there's more coming, we know that. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that.
Any other commissioner comments? Talk about paramedics. I've had been fortunate enough to be able to attend every day of the Delaware State Fair so far, and in the exhibition hall, DeKalb County Paramedics has one of their units in there, and they're actively recruiting in Kent County for paramedics. So I informed Colin about that. And also, I noticed in Rehoboth a couple weeks ago in Dolly's storefront, DeKalb County also had a poster in there recruiting in Sussex County for paramedics. So the fight is on, I guess, for recruiting. So any other commission comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
All right, can we roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston? Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. And we do not have executive session.